Hi, everybody. Now, while we have studied American history and Texas history, we have seen America expand its economic base. In the 19th century, say 1850s, 1860s, you get into the post-Civil War era, you start to see businesses and factories grow and money get more prevalent among people. People started to have more wealth. Well, banks were doing good too because people were putting their money into banks. And businesses, factories, companies were looking to banks to get money to invest. If they wanted to build a factory, if they wanted to build a plant, or if they wanted to pay their employees, they went to the bank. Well, that kind of dependence on the bank put a lot of pressure on banks because you know what? We have an economy that sometimes goes strong and sometimes does not. That's the nature of our capitalism, our free enterprise. There are going to be times of big booms and big downturns, or boom and bust. Now, when the boom happens, everybody's happy, at least most of the time. We're making money, where money's coming in, we're working a lot. The only thing that we have to worry about is something called inflation, where the price of goods starts to go up. But other than that, things usually go pretty good. But along with the boom times are the difficult times. And this is where you find yourself in the middle of what's called a bank panic. What's a panic? Well, and I'll put this up, bank panic. What is a bank panic? A bank panic is almost simply put as a run on a bank. A run on a bank. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say I have 1,000 people in a bank, have put money in a bank. And I'm going to make it like this. I'll make a picture. 1,000 people have put, $100 in the bank. Right? Here's the bank, and here's 1,000 people. 1,000 people have put $100 in the bank. All right? Well, let's say that bank therefore has $100,000 in it because you got $100, 1,000 people putting money in, that's $100,000, right? Well, let's say a company comes along. Let's say the mining company comes along, or I'll make it easier. A lumber company comes along. Lumber company comes along and says, "Hey, we want to borrow some money to build some extra troughs for the water going near our lumber." Well, they want to borrow, say, $5,000. Well, the bank says, okay, you can borrow $5,000. So the bank gives them $5,000. And what happens now, instead of having $100,000, they have $95,000. All right? Now, that's okay as long as the lumber company pays off that debt. Well, let's say a few more companies come by. Let's say horse trading company comes by, and let's say a boat making company comes by. And you know what? We're getting a little bit more into the use of oil. So let's say kerosene lamp company comes by. What are they doing? They need money. One wants to borrow $10,000, another wants to borrow $10,000, and another wants to borrow $10,000. Now, this might work. Remember, you got these companies borrowing. You got the horse trading company. You've got the boat making company, and you've got the kerosene lamp company. They're all taking money out of the bank because they want to build and sell to their customers. They get a big demand. So that's $30,000. Now remember, we borrowed $5,000 for the lumber company. We borrowed $5,000. So you got $35,000 that's been taken out. $100,000, right? Out of $100,000, that leaves the bank with $65,000. I know I'm making it simple, but there's a reason why I'm making it simple. The bank now has $65,000. Well, let's say there's a couple more people come along. Let's say Joe Financier decides that he wants to buy out the lumber company. Joe Financier wants to buy out the lumber company, so he wants to go to the bank and borrow $30,000. That's getting a little risky now because the bank only has $65,000 in it. Okay? $65,000 in. There's $30,000 financial. I want to buy that company. Well, so he borrows $30,000, and now that bank only has $35,000 left. Okay? Well, guess what? Turns out that the lumber yard finds out that they're having some problems with their lumber. Whatever happened, there was a dry season. The season was just not as good as it should be. And you know what? There's a problem with the buying of the lumber company. Maybe the price had to go down. Maybe the price had to go up. And so that Joe Financier's got $30,000 in his bank. I don't want you to get too confused. Just follow us closely. So he tries to buy a lumber company, but they're not sure they want to sell. They have to make a side deal. Well, here's the problem. The bank has $35,000 in it. $35,000. They had $100,000. Those are people's monies that are in there. But those monies aren't there anymore because they went out to loan. Right? So instead of having $100,000, they now have $35,000. Well, a rumor starts to spread. Uh-oh, I heard Joe Financier is trying to buy that lumber company, but that lumber company kind of had a bad year, and maybe that sale is not going to go through. Uh-oh. So what do people do? They get a little nervous because the word gets out. I heard the bank only has $35,000 in it. So neighbor talks to neighbor, talks to neighbor. And they say, hey, if they only got $35,000 in it, and that Joe Pioneer got the other $30,000, where's my money at? And so neighbor talks to neighbor, talks to neighbor. And they said, well, you know what? I have a feeling Joe Financier got my money. And then word comes out, did you hear the kerosene lamp borrowed some money too? Oh, yeah, I heard that there's another company that borrowed too, that horse trading company. Oh, really? So people start talking, the newspaper starts printing about the fact this guy borrowed $30,000, and people all over town say, wait a second, I want my money. And they go to the bank, and the bank says, you know, a funny thing happened last week. And everybody says, we're listening. There's a guy named Joe who wanted to buy a lumber company, and they're all going, we're listening. Well, that's not going as well as he thought. And so they say, well, don't you want to get his money back? Well, the funny thing is, I can't seem to get it back from him, the banker says. So everybody's like ready to jump through the window of the bank and say, I want my money. I want my money. And the bank has to make a decision. What do I do? Now, maybe some people will get their money back and some people won't. You say, well, hey, they can't do that. Well, you got to understand, in those days, there was no FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. There wasn't the laws on banking were kind of weak because, you got to remember, there was even a battle in Washington about how strong a bank should be. So you have people running on the bank to get their money, but there ain't no money there because all the money's been loaned out to, what's his name? Joe, and a few of the companies. So either the bank shuts its doors or the people don't get as much money as they thought they had. And a lot of people find themselves in pretty bad shape because the money they thought they had in the bank, they ain't got there. And that causes more economic problems. Companies have to shut down, and the bank has to shut down and has to regroup to figure out how they're going to get their money back. Now, that is a simple way of describing a bank panic. Now, the good news is, eventually it works out. Maybe that company, after all, does sell out to Joe. maybe the other companies start making some money off the loans, and they can start paying back that bank the money. And so that money that was all lent out starts to come back. Well, guess what? The people who put money into the bank, they start getting their money back again. And so those neighbors that were talking to each other, they're starting to feel a little bit better. But for a while there, they didn't have their money. It was because there was a run on the bank, and that was caused because there were rumors about money being spent that they didn't have. That is a simple description of a bank panic. Now, you want me to run through that one more time? No? Oh, come on. It's exciting stuff. Okay, I get you. I think you get it. I think. Later.